Welcome to Book Club no Kiseki. I am Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Hout.
And I'm Matt Jorgensen.
In the portion of Falcom's Kiseki series we'll be playing today is the 6th chapter of Kevin Game, Trails in the Sky III, entitled The Guardian's Trials. But before we get started, what's the buzz, Peach Fuzz?
I just started playing Final Fantasy XIV. I spent about 30 minutes trying to figure out how to get my Square Enix accounts to work. Then I played for about an hour, and now it's recording time.
Nice.
And everybody says, you just got to get through the first 120 hours, man, then it gets real good. So I guess I'm going to see if I can make that commitment.
Yeah, I'm one of the few that thinks that the game starts good, or at least at 2.0 starts good. I never played 1.0, so I don't know if that was garbage. But it's just vibey, and you kind of just hang out, and it doesn't have the narrative like oomph that the game is famous for. But it's not bad. It's just an MMO plotline for 2.0 and not a Final Fantasy XIV award-winning plotline.
I mean, I have played and enjoyed Final Fantasy XI. Not a whole lot. Not played it a whole lot, but I enjoyed it a whole lot. So I can enjoy just running around in a place that has good graphics and good music. Which, in Final Fantasy XI, good graphics is a very specific kind of good graphics. But I think they're good.
Mm-hmm.
Everything looks like it was carved out of stone.
I like that.
I also just finished Final Fantasy IX and really enjoyed that, even though the last third of the game is sort of bullshit. But I was looking for a new game to play, and I was like, should I play Dragon Quest IV? Should I play this? And I was like, nope, Final Fantasy XIV. Fuck it.
It's time.
It's time. I sort of want to play it before Final Fantasy XVI comes out, so that I can know the people's previous work, since it's apparently the new game by the Final Fantasy XIV people.
Yeah, I love the fact that they said that the game is playable start to finish, and they're just going to take the whole next year to make it good. That makes me excited, because it's probably going to be real good.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Maybe Sega should do that with the new Sonic game.
Yeah, I had the opposite reaction to basically everyone to the Sonic Frontiers footage. I thought that it looked cool. I don't think I liked the fact that the music wasn't Sonic music, because Sonic is about 89% music, but everyone's saying it was huge and empty. They haven't played the Pathless or whatever. That is also just a move really fast and movement in a big ol' wide open space because it's fun sort of thing. There were parts of it that looked janky, but for the most part, I thought it looked fun and cool and exciting. And then I went to the comments and realized that I was a loser and no one agreed with me.
I mean, a lot of the technical stuff just looks extremely rough, and it's weird that they're showing it off at this point.
Yeah. But I'm mostly excited about it because Ian Flynn is writing it, and Ian Flynn knows Sonic better than basically anyone else, which segues into what I did this week. I have started reading I've continued reading the Archie Sonic comics. I started reading them 2 years ago now, and I read a bunch, and then I stopped, and I've started reading a bunch again. And they're fucking weird and very, very bizarre, and in ways that don't even really make sense. Like the showrunner, as it were, of the time, Ken Penders, basically really liked Knuckles, but what he actually liked was his own Sonic OCs, and he just whole cloth, because Knuckles didn't have a backstory before Sonic Adventure, so he could do whatever the fuck he wanted, and so he did, and just went hog wild. And there's entire like sagas of issues, so like 3 or 4 issues in the Knuckles the Echidna comic book that Knuckles does not appear in. It is just Echidna OCs doing shit, and it's fucking weird. But the most weird one is the issue where Charmy B's best friend dies of LSD poisoning, and Charmy is so like depressed from it that he quits the Chaotix and goes back to be a prince, and is never seen from in the entire comic ever again for the next 15 years. And it's bonkers and wild. But the reason that Ian Flynn segued is Ian Flynn was a fan of the Sonic comics. Like, they were super popular, even though looking back on them, they make no goddamn sense. And so Ian Flynn wrote a bunch of like spec scripts and plot ideas and stuff like that, and just cold sent them to Archie. So when Ken Penders was fired or retired, or however he was leaving, like, him and 3 or 4 of the other top writers all left like within a year. So Sega and Archie basically had no one to go off of. So they're like, well, this kid sent in some spec scripts and they're pretty good. Let's just give him the job. And he knocked it out of the park. His very first issue, where like he course corrected so much, but paid respect to all of the garbage that Ken Penders had done, but also all of the video games, and it all made sense. And he's been the head writer of Sonic ever since. And his current series with IDW, I think, is doing Sonic now. The Archie Sonic is over and done with, but he's currently writing the Sonic for IDW, and those are fantastic and set in the games canon. So if you want Sonic comics and you don't want to deal with all the Ken Penders shit, you can just start with the IDW Sonics, and they're really good. But Ian Flynn, being the head writer of this next game, is probably going to be really good as just like a Sonic game. Even if the gameplay stuff is weird, I'm probably going to really, really like it, because I really, really like Ian Flynn.
I do want to say, I have seen some people say, so apparently Sonic Frontiers is going to have wide open areas and regular zones, and there sounds like there's going to be some sort of focus on story. Is Sonic Frontiers Sonic Adventure 3? And no, Sonic 06 is Sonic Adventure 3, and anyone who won't admit it is a coward.
I too have strong opinions about Sonic, but I will not talk about them at all.
We have the time this episode if you really want to go into it.
Oh no, I was just trying to fit it and be cool. My strong opinions about Sonic are the Cho raising thing from the Sonic Game Boy Advance games was pretty neat.
Nice. Yeah, Sonic is what taught me how to draw and write stories back in the day. I made a really, really super terrible comic strip with my brother called Big Red and Lil Blue that starred Knuckles and Sonic respectively, but not Tails. It starred Loser Man, which was Tails, but with a cape instead of 2 tails, because we couldn't draw Tails. So it was bad, but I have a huge soft spot for Sonic. One of the random Knuckles comics was the first comic book I ever bought. So really, really like Sonic, and I love when Sonic is good, and I love when Sonic is bad, and I just love Sonic in general.
Sonic is... Oh.
Go ahead. I was about to segue, so...
Okay, well, It's me now. It's my turn. Sonic is the game series that taught me I don't have to be even remotely good at something to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The thing I was segueing into from Sonic is have you guys seen Rescue Rangers yet?
No, I'm not going to watch it. You can't sell me on it.
Okay.
Don't take that as a challenge.
I'm not taking it as a challenge.
Fun fact, Rescue Rangers gave me nightmares as a child, so I probably won't see it.
Okay. So I will then just spoil it. If you are spoiler adverse, you can skip forward about a minute. I don't think they'll let me spend much longer than that. But Rescue Rangers has almost nothing to do with Rescue Rangers at all. Like, the show basically has nothing to do with Chip and Dale besides the fact that they're the stars. It's actually a sequel to Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And it's basically set in that world where tunes and non-tunes commingle, and it's great. And it's about like washed up actors trying to do washed up actor things. One of those washed up actors is Ugly Sonic from the original trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog, the live action movie. And
savagery.
And it's really good and really funny, and a love letter to all sorts of animation. Like Randy Marsh is in the movie, My Little Pony's in the movie, the Beowulf is in the movie, the Coca-Cola bear is in the movie. It's real good, and I highly recommend it. The Ugly Sonic thing had me cackling, and it's not just a cameo. Like, he is one of the like top 4 main characters of the movie, and it's real good. I really enjoyed it. I watched it when it came out, and I forgot to talk about it on the main podcast that next day, and then I took like 2 weeks off, so I haven't been able to gush about it. But I love that movie. It's probably my movie of the year so far. So now, Matt, now I can segue to you, not as cleverly as I did before, but how about you? What?
Oh boy, there's a lot of things I could talk about. Some of them, a lot of them unpleasant. But let's do positive things this week. I'm in a good mood. It's a great, between last week and this week, it's a great week if you're a fan of tanks and video games. Because they released a digital version of the 6th edition of Ogre, the board game, on the Nintendo Switch. I have no idea how to play it, but I move things around the board and stuff happens, so that's neat.
Cool.
And then Ogre is apparently like one of the big board games, air quotes, big board games from like the 70s and 80s, when like the boutique style board game was like getting its feet under it, but long before it hit mainstream. So like I have literally spent more time watching YouTube videos on the history of that board game than actually trying to learn how to play it. And then let's see. Today is well, doesn't matter what today is because you'll be hearing it a different time than that probably anyway. June 10th. Put it in your calendars, folks. That's when the new Metal Max game comes out.
Hell yeah.
I'm very excited. It is a strange game because it's not coming to PS5. It is coming to PS4 and Switch. And it is a remake of the original game, not the first one, Metal Max Xeno. So this one is called Metal Max Xeno Reborn. It is a remake of Metal Max Xeno, which also came out on the PS4. So I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why they decided to remake it. but I am not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. It looks rad. Please buy that game.
I played a little bit of the original PS4 one, which the original PS4 was a port of the Vita game. It was a Vita game first. So that's why it went to PS4 as just a port, but now it's going to PS4 as a remake. So
that makes sense.
It's still silly that the remake is on the same console as the original version, but
that whole game series has like a weird history of doing very silly things in kind of brilliant ways. If any of y'all want to track me down on the Twitter birds, pretty much all this week I'm going to be bouncing between Metal Max games and just word vomiting my thoughts on it, which should be a good, if incoherent, time.
Awesome. Anything else anyone wants to say before we start talking about this quote-unquote plot, this chapter?
I don't know. We better hurry and get to the plot so that we don't run out of time.
Cool. All right, let's listen to some Kevin music and talk about our Kevin plot. This chapter starts yet again on a flashback for baby Kevin, this one taking place before Rufina died, when Kevin and Rufina were both working for the Gralsritters. Kevin answers the phone, and Rufina's on the other end. She was supposed to meet him where they were already, which apparently is back near their hometown, but there's been an accident on the train or something, so she's delayed, so she'll be there by the evening. They're going to meet up together to go see Reese, and Kevin is like, well, I'll wait for you till you show up because Reese will be super pissed if I showed up without you. Rufina says, don't worry about me. You can go home without me if you get bored. Otherwise, I'll be there tonight. I got to go catch my train. As Kevin's hanging up the phone, the priest of the church runs in and says that some Jaegers have been seen on the mountain path headed towards Astor House, which is the orphanage where they all grew up. Kevin runs over there to save the kids and decides to run in without backup. Chapter 6, The Guardian's Trials. So back in the Hermit's Garden, we talk with Celeste and we thank her for helping us out in the Areola last game. She's like, actually, I'm not the real Celeste, but just a partial copy of her personality meant to be the steward of Phantasma. She explains that Phantasma is a subsystem for the Areola that incorporates and processes the will of LibreArch's populace, which is dumb and confusing, but it was a world designed to... Basically, it's a holodeck that can fill humanity's every wish and desire. It's like the virtual component to the Areola's like actual reality warping stuff that it can do. So when everyone decided to shut down the Areola, the Phantasma basically would undo what they were doing, and like if they tried to lock away Phantasma, the Areola would warp it back, and if they tried to shut down the Areola, Phantasma would warp it back, and they were making it real hard to try and shut it off. But the Recluse cube, the thing that we've been using to fast travel, is able to communicate with with Phantasma without interfacing with the Areola. So Celeste made a copy of herself through the cube to go into Phantasma in the Hermit's Garden and sabotage it long enough so that the real Celeste could lock away the Areola in the real world. I think it's so many times Celeste will say something, the character will be like, that doesn't make any sense. So she says something that's even more nonsense, and they're like, got it. And I don't. But I'm pretty certain that that's close enough to what's actually happening. After her job was completed, she fell into a deep sleep, and she only recently awoke when the areola disappeared at the end of the last game, and then the Lord of Phantasma showed up to start messing with stuff. So he is a new development. He is not the actual Lord of anything. He's just somebody that went in and started fucking with stuff. When he showed up, he stole power from Celeste and turned Phantasma into a super dungeon. Because if you think about it, it would be really stupid for the holodeck to be a super dungeon normally. Like, imagine if you were like, oh, I just want to like see my dad again. Let me log into the Phantasma and then battle through the 7 layers of hell just to get to the thing. Like, obviously, that's not how it would normally be. That's just how it is now. And Celeste says that there are 7 planes, and we're on the 6th one currently. So once we finish this one, we can put a stop to everything and go and face down the Lord of Phantasma. And everyone's like, so, but if we're putting a stop to him, like, what is he even after? And then Kevin shows up because, as you remember, he was out cold for last chapter. He shows up and he's like, he's up to stuff. And we're like, oh, cool. What's he doing? And he's like, I don't know, but I know who did it. And they're like, okay, who is the Lord of Phantasma? And Kevin says he's a cunning, arrogant, cold-hearted son of a bitch who doesn't even see people as people. And everyone's like, okay, but yeah, what's their name? And Kevin's like, I'm going to tell you later, because dramatic pause. I think that I'm right, but I want to make sure that I am. So I'm not even going to tell you my guess, because I think we're going to find out soon enough. And we're like, whatever, let's just go play a JRPG. Kevin apologizes for worrying Reese last week, and she asks him to promise one thing, to not do anything that would make Rufina sad. And Kevin's like, okay, ouch. So we now get to make our party. Did you guys mix up your party a lot, or did you just pick one third person since the 4th person was rotating for all of the various things?
If I recall correctly, I don't believe you need to bring Reese with you. I think she's optional. But I feel like
I feel like she wasn't optional on mine, but the Let's Play definitely brought other people. But I feel like she was already in my party and grayed out when I went to do it.
I don't know. I definitely took her, and I pretty much took Estelle with me wherever I went, because my Estelle is really good. She's good at heals. I know all her crafts.
I also took Estelle because she's the main character.
She is. That's why I always play as Mario in Mario Kart.
What about you, Matt? Did you take anyone in particular, or did you mix it up?
As I recall, I'm struggling with this section, actually. Like, difficulty-wise, I'm not sure what's going on. So I took one of my best characters, just the best team I could cobble together.
Okay. Yeah, so we go to warp into the 6th plane, and we're at the Urbe Royal Villa's little boardwalk thing. I forget what it's actually called. And this time all of the scenic route, that's right. There are big hunkin' tablet monuments everywhere, but only one of them is activated. And when you go to it, it says to bring the girl with the white wings or something like that. Celeste pops up and is like, oh, that means Chloe. Also, I have enough strength back that I can astral project to you wherever you are, which is cool. So we warp back to get Chloe from the garden and then return to the tablet and place our hands upon it. This warps us to Genus Royal Academy, but all of the color has been drained from the school. No plot happens whatsoever. Like, I was kind of like not paying attention as I was going through, so I thought I had missed in the text where it said what to do and where to go. So I on the Vita, you can press down on the D-pad to bring up a text log, and I reread the the cutscene like 4 or 5 times, and yeah, no, you pop in, everyone's like, let's just look around, I guess. And so what you have to do is the various buildings in the school will have a number of Black Knights and 1 or 2 Red Knights. And you have to kill all the Black Knights while avoiding the Red Knights. If you kill a Red Knight, it respawns all of the Black Knights and undoes your progress. And there's no hints. I had to look it up because I was so confused, because I had been skipping fights basically this whole game, and because I can just retry on a lower difficulty all the way down until I can beat it. So I have not been playing properly. So I was skipping everything, and then I was trying to kill everything, and neither of those things work. You have to kill most of the things, and it was not fun.
Yeah, it's weird that the game gives you no indication that that's what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. But after you restore all the color to the school by killing all the Black Knights, you run into the Ravens, who aren't the real Ravens, but have seemingly up-to-date thoughts and feelings from the real Ravens. So instead of throwing them in a Pokeball and locking them in Phantasma with you, the Lord of Phantasma just like scanned their brain to make clones of them to fight you. And they are
aware of this.
Mm-hmm.
They are fully aware. And they are like, man, it's a shame we got to fight you, but we got to fight you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is
this
is how the next 6 hours of gameplay will go.
And it's every time you see an NPC, they're a clone that doesn't want to fight you but has to fight you.
That sounds like the worst existence.
Well, everyone seems pretty chipper about it.
Except for Amalthea.
Well, yes, but
she's never been chipper in her life. So yeah, after we fight the Ravens, we do the same thing but with Philip. Were either of these boss fights interesting or relatively tough for you guys?
I don't particularly remember having any trouble with either of them. I had trouble with some boss fights this week, but
yeah, we'll get to those. After we defeat Philip, the next tablet back on the scenic route lights up, this time requiring Annalise, or our sword-wielding dame, as if Reese and Chloe and Julia don't all use swords and are dames.
But they're immediately like, oh, definitely Annalise. And if I recall correctly, Celeste is like, oh, I think that means Annalise. And Kevin's like, yeah, definitely Annalise. No question.
Like, so katana is Japanese for sword. So maybe it's a translation thing. And in the Japanese, they're like, oh, it's the one with the katana, not with the longsword. But because she is the only person in your party that can wield katanas. But it's still stupid. So Annalise's tablet takes place in the Ouroboros Lakeside Laboratory, the super dungeon from last game. But this time it's been mirrored. Even the words on the computer screens are backwards. But otherwise it's still just a giant fucking dungeon that takes like a good couple of hours to do. And nothing else happens. We fight copies of the Bracer B team. So we fight Grant, Karna, and Kurt. But after we beat Kurt, there's still more dungeon to do. And we're like, well, who could it be? And it's Kilika. And we finally get to see her be her martial arts badass after a whole game about Zen and Walter. Did any of the Bracer bit part guys give you any trouble, or this dungeon in general have anything you wanted to talk about?
They all just sort of blend together.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, Kurt gave me some trouble. Kurt was when I started just on principle, just holding down accept and speed up until I died 3 or 4 times, and then I actually started fighting. There were a couple of boss fights that I took out on my first turn, but I think our first time through, but I think Kurt was not one of them. But I don't remember many specifics about him. After we defeat Kilika, it opens up the next tablet, this time needing the Divine Blade successor. And I had Estelle and Joshua with me, and it wasn't Estelle or Joshua, which leaves Richard, the only other person that Cassius ever really talked to in our party. So we take him and we go to Lyston Fortress, which has been rebranded the Impregnable Fortress, which is hilarious because we broke into it in both of the last games. So it's not actually impregnable. We kind of wholly proved that a couple times. But
it's totally impregnable for less than for asterisk. 25% of the population of the continent can break in.
Yeah.
But nobody else can. It's fine.
Yeah. So the first boss we face is Sid, who actually has things to say besides just this is my fight banter. So it's kind of interesting a little, not really.
Richard gets a lot of characterization in this section, but again, no like actual plot.
Yeah, nothing about the Lord of Phantasma or what's going on or anything like that. It's just more character vibes, but they're interesting character vibes. So when you talk to Sid, he says that he's sad that Richard decided to give up the army and wished he hadn't. But Richard is like, that's how I felt about Cassius, and you saw where that got me. So let's not and say we did, and just keep on doing you. I'll keep on doing me. We're both successors to Cassius. I am his successor in swordcraft. You're his successor in the military. So you do you, I'll do me, and we'll just take it from there. Which was cute. Sid begs us to free everyone that's trapped in Phantasma. He thinks that we're the only ones who can do it, and he disappears. Our next opponent is Amalthea, who is still a mess and a half. She says that she hopes that Richard can defeat her, so that because the her that stands in front of him right now is symbolic of the her that is trapped looking at the past. And if Richard can defeat her, then she can finally move on and move forward. It's a really great scene, including a silly part where she calls Richard Your Excellency, and Richard's like, hey, could you not do that? A, I'm not in the military. B, when I was a colonel. That's not a Your Excellency level job. So let's just cool it on that. And she goes, no. And then we fight. After Amalthea, we fight Morgan, and nothing interesting happens. And then after Morgan, we fight Cassius, where interesting stuff does happen. So Cassius is like, oh, I thought that like the plot of this JRPG was over last game, but apparently it's not. And Kevin's like, yeah, I was surprised too. But yeah, I guess we have to fight now. And Cassius is like, yeah, of course, I'm not going to take it easy on you because that wouldn't be fair. But let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. And we fight. And Cassius is hard.
Yes,
there's a reason every single person in the entire fucking continent is like, oh, that guy's good at fights because he's fucking hard.
If I recall correctly, he's the only boss in this chapter that doesn't have minions, which helps sell how good he is at fights because he's so hard without any minions. Although I do find it a little disappointing that after all this time, we're actually I mean, I guess it's not really Cassius, but like
Mhm.
actually fighting him, actually having an encounter, like actually having payoff to all the talk about how good he is at fights is a little disappointing to me.
Yeah.
I preferred him being a mystery.
Yeah.
But yes, this battle was very hard.
I would have loved if, because every single person was like, I'm not going to go easy on you. Like, I'm going to give it my all because the thrill of the fight. I would have loved if after you beat it, Cassius still was like, I went easy on you or something. Like, give us something to make the illusion still there. But
He needed to like fight us with an umbrella.
or something.
Yeah.
His illusion is still solid for me though, because after I threw myself at him 2 or 3 times to bring the difficulty down, he still beat me with me trying like 3 times, and that's on like, I'm already on easy, so going to very easy to pitifully easy to mega easy to anyone can do this, and I still died several times before I actually beat him. It was real hard and real good. After we beat Cassius, very barely, he asks Richard if he's been able to set aside his hesitations, and Richard is like, I believe so. I'm quitting the military and I'm not going to be doing military stuff, but I won't give up the sword and I'll still be a good swords braster for the rest of my life. And Cassius is like, sounds good. I wish you would have come back to the army just so I could have made you do everything, because I don't want to work anymore, which is great. And Richard promises, as his final bit of duty as a member of the military, he will resolve this crisis and return everyone to the real world. And then, because I had Estelle and Joshua with me, they have a real cute scene where basically Cassius is like catching up with them, because Estelle and Joshua are out on their world hopping adventures right now, and so Cassius is like, oh, make sure you come by and see me and bring Ren, I want to see her, etc. And it's real cute. Before we leave, Cassius is like, so Kevin, you know who the Lord of Phantasma is, right? Kevin's like, absolutely. So I'm going to be certain after the next area. Cassius is like, cool. So don't forget that no man is an island. No matter how much they may wish to isolate themselves from others, no one can live their life truly alone. And then he disappears. And that wraps up Richard's little place.
You might think that Cassius would be the final boss of a chapter, but no, he's just a mid-boss.
He's just a mid-boss. So after this, the last one, so the tablets have all been, I am the Lord of Phantasma, and I say that to defeat this trial, you have to bring so-and-so. But this last one is like, hey, it's me. I'm the Schwartzritter. I'm not the Lord of Phantasma. Joshua, fight me one-on-one. And so we go get Joshua. Schwartzritter warned us last week that he was going to be our final trial. And here he is. So we bring Joshua to the tablet, and it takes us to alternate universe, the Glorious. This time is black instead of red. The electric walls have moved, but the layout of the dungeon has not changed. So we make our way through it. The one thing that has changed is all of the treasure rooms, instead of having one treasure chest, have like 12 treasure chests. I kitted out fucking everybody on the way here. It was real good.
I think some of the rooms in the original Glorious had multiple treasure chests, but there was definitely a lot of treasure to collect this time.
So when you there's another scene with Gilbert partway through. He's locked in the brig, and he's like, leave me alone. I don't even want to be here. And Estella's like, dude, just stop. Like, you're not hard. We've never thought you were hard. You're not cool. You're not awesome. You stop with this I'm a cool, awesome, hard ass vibe that you're trying to put on, and just ask us for help to get you out of the thing. He's like, well, I don't want help anyways. So we go and we unlock him out of his out of the cell that he's in. He's like, fine, here's my key card. It worked on the old Glorious. It'll probably work on this one. But next time we meet, we're going to be enemies again. And they're like, yeah, whatever. You're still just as crappy in a fight as you were when we fought you for the first time in the middle of last game. But after all that, we make it down to the hangar where we fight clone versions of the Capwas, the Don and what's his face? Kyle, that's right. So we fight Don and Kyle and a whole bunch of mooks. They bring a lot of their little Sky Bandit mooks with them, which is really cool because I had max CP when the battle started. So, and all of my characters had all attacks for their S breaks. And so it felt really cool, like killing a whole bunch of dudes at once. Like everyone else has had minions, but it's been like one or two archaisms or devils or like faceless dudes for the Bracer B team had faceless bracers, but here it's like 10 characters on screen and you just gotta destroy them all real fast, and I liked it a lot. But otherwise was not hard at all. This was one of the ones where I didn't even go into easy mode. I just do a retry on a lower difficulty. I just kicked their butt. After you defeat them, they apparently can break the rules for gameplay reasons, and they give Josette a new S break, where instead of just calling down the Bobcat to do some machine guns, it now does some missiles, which is really cool. They say that, everyone else disappeared when you defeated them, but we're not going to do that. We're going to hang around and fly your imaginary Bobcat. Because why not? After we defeat them, the aft castle, I think they call it, the house that sits on top of the boat, that thing, that opens up so we can go in there, and
I think it's actually the forecastle.
Forecastle. That makes sense. It's a something castle. But we go into there, and we come face to face with the rest of Ouroboros. So we see Pou Blanc, we see Luciola, and we see Walter.
And I say, oh, fuck.
Yeah. Because each of them were hard last game, and now we have to fight all three of them at the same time. This fight was hard. I think this was one of the ones where I died a couple of times before I could try, and then after trying, I died a couple times again.
It took me one retry to do it. It was very hard. Both tries took a very long time, and I was just so desperately trying to cling to life as they kept hitting me with really strong attacks and really bad status effects, and it was really intense.
Sorry, I thought you were talking longer, so I put a snack in my mouth. Give me a second.
I think this is where I ran into issues. I think this is the fight, right? I think I ended up having to restart this fight like 9 times.
Or the snack was a Tootsie Roll. It's really chewy. I don't know why.
That was a really bad idea to try and sneak that in during a podcast.
Yeah, I don't know why. It was the last one in my little tube of Tootsie Rolls, and I'm like, that sounds great right now because I'm stupid. Anywho, so when we fight them, they have some words with Joshua about him being from Ouroboros too, but I don't remember it being super interesting or developmental or anything. It just they have beef, so they talk about their beef. But yeah, they disappear, and a warp circle shows up behind them for us to go and finally finish this chapter. When we warp in, we are in a place that is not from the Glorious. We are in the endless staircase from Super Mario 64, and everyone's like, "Oh, the Schwarzwitter made this for us to have a big place to fight." And
Kevin does a backwards long jump.
He does, and and, well, we get up to the top, and the Schwarzritter is there, and is like, "So, Joshua, I bet you didn't think it would be me." And Josh was like, "Yeah, why are you wearing the mask?" And Schwarzritter's like, "Oh, well, the Lord of Phantasma wants me to. So, what other reason could there be?" And Josh was like, he's like, "That sounds like bullshit." And everyone's like, "So, Joshua, who is this person that has the white hair?" When finding the only person on the continent with white hair besides Shara was a big plot point. Who could this be? And Josh was like, I'll show you after I beat the shit out of him and rip his mask off. So the Schwarzritter is like, "Okay, well, let's fight then." And we're like, "Okay, cool." And he calls in Lei Wei's big mech from last game. So if you haven't figured it out,
if you haven't figured it out, you're probably not going to figure it out from this, because you're not paying much attention.
Yeah. So
this fight is hard. I had to retry on this one as well.
Yeah, it was real hard. And the only reason it wasn't hard is defeating, like, the thing that made it not like impossible for me is when you defeat Ouroboros, the fountain in the Hermit's Garden refills. So I warped back there, checked it, got full CP, so I could start by denying him all of his good turns and using a whole bunch of S-crafts to get it started. And I still think I was like on like 3 tries deep when I finally was able to kill him. But thankfully, so he can split off his into different pieces, but those pieces you don't have to actually kill. So so like I moused over one, or D-padded over one, and I pressed square to bring up its information, and it has the same amount of health as like a fully healed Lei Wei. And I'm like, oh shit, like this is gonna suck. Like, do I have to be better enough at the game where I can kill a whole one before it can spawn a second one? But no, if you kill the original, all of them die. Thank God. Or this would have been even fucking harder. But it was.
So what made this fight very hard for me was that I was trying to take out the mech first, because the mech hits really hard. But then once you get the mech's health down a ways, Lei Wei starts healing it, and I would like be trying to impede his heal arts, but sometimes he would just do one. He would just like start one, then do it right away. And I'm like, that's cheating, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the mech hits really hard, but it has to charge to do all of its things. But it's immune to impede skills.
Yes, the mech is immune to impede.
Which is fucking stupid. And it makes me so mad.
Yeah, every time in these games when something starts charging and I try to impede and it doesn't work, I get so angry.
But all of these boss fights this week, even though I retried 40 times to not have to grind and apply myself and get back up to where I needed to be, they were a whole lot of fun because I was doing things like, I'm going to use Crest and Fortuna and all these things on my characters while timing my heals properly. And I did a thing that makes perfect sense, and I should have been doing it from the beginning. But if I go to and I cast a heal spell on somebody, and there are turns in between, I will ignore what the area of effect that I'm casting. I won't put it on people who move between now and then. I will just move those people into the area of effect so that I can get the max out of it. So if everybody's kind of spread out, but Estelle and Joshua move before the thing will go off, I'll just move them over to Reese's position so that I heal Reese and it gets everybody. And I did a lot of cool thinking about the game a lot this week, and I really, really enjoyed it. I had a whole lot of fun playing this week. Nothing fucking happened in this whole fucking thing.
Well, no, we haven't done the final cutscene. Let's see if something else happens.
What about you, Matt? How did you deal with Schwarzenegger?
This is the fight that made me realize that the save file I was using was bad. So I just died a lot until eventually I could kill him. I cannot emphasize how much a lot was. I think this particular fight was maybe the longest I've ever spent fighting a boss in anything. And that includes Dark Souls games. This was misery.
Yeah, it reminded me of the first time I played through Sky First Chapter. I had beat, I think, Dawn and Kyle are the boss at the bottom of the pirate base, the Sky Pirate base, and I beat them barely. So I had no EP and I had no items left. But then you have to fight your way out. So every single one of those fights, I would die on the first turn. So I would retry at a easier thing until the game was so easy and felt so bad for me that it gave me all my characters acted first, and the first three things were 100% HP heals, and then I immediately had more turns, all of which were criticals. Where it's like, look, we're going to stack the deck as much as we can to help you win, because I could not survive. And it's kind of how I felt with a couple of these, where I just kept doing retry on a lower difficulty 900 times.
Man, I felt bad because I had to retry on a lower difficulty once for several of these fights, and I was like, oh man, I was so close. But now I feel like a pro gamer.
Yeah. My problem was that so one of the doors this week, you have to have had 500 battles, which in a JRPG, that shouldn't be hard to have gotten when you're 3 doors away from the final boss. Except I don't have that because I've just skipped so many things. I am severely underleveled. Apparently, Ren's support is almost as good as Josette's, but instead of item and Mira and Sepith drops, its experience is doubled. So if you are getting your ass kicked and you want to catch up, Ren is the way to go. But I will probably just continue to use the cheat codes that the game offers me.
I wonder if going through all those retries is actually saving you time versus having leveled up.
Maybe so. Or maybe not. I can whomst can say.
True.
But it's easier to hold down 2 buttons until I lose than it is to go and hold down those same 2 buttons to fight a bunch of mooks. So after we defeat him, we indeed break off his mask, and of course, it's Leeway on the inside. Who would have fucking thought? Like, I felt it was when I first saw him at the very beginning of the game, but I was like, that's too obvious. But then Jimmy was like, no, that's who it is. It's that obvious. The biggest mystery of the game is not a mystery. So
it made me think of when Skullface from Metal Gear Solid 5 wears the little domino mask just to look cool, but it's still amazingly clear who it is.
Yes. So Leeway is like, Joshua, I never thought I'd be so lucky to see you again. And Josh was like, I was regretting this because I thought I'd have to go through the pain of losing you for a second time. So I pretended I had no idea who you were this whole time to avoid it. And this world is based on the real people who come here's like thoughts and feelings. You're basically only here because I'm here, and you're only in this whole getup because I didn't want it to be you. And yeah, you basically haven't been real this whole time, which is pretty cool. That at least is a development I didn't see coming. I thought Leeway was going to be like Frankenstein back from the dead somehow for the Lord of Phantasma or whatever, but no, it's just another figment of everyone's imagination. But because Joshua is still healing, it had superpowers that the rest of them didn't, which is pretty cool. There's a big long like emotional back and forth, and at the end Joshua is like, I thought I would be sad having to say goodbye to you for a second time, but actually I didn't get to say goodbye to you the first time because we were doing fights and we had to escape. So now I like actually have closure and things are great, and it's very sweet. So Leeway asked Kevin if he's confident now that he knows who the final boss is going to be, and Kevin says yep, but he still won't tell us. So he's like, okay, well, I'm going to disappear now because I was just another guardian like everyone else was. So even I am not important, like how Cassius was just a mid boss. I am also just a mid boss, and bye guys. And he disappears. That then opens the big glowing purple door that was keeping us out of the villa. And so we're like, all right, let's go in. But instead of the villa, there's mist there. So we have to walk through the mist, and it's going to take us to somewhere else like it did before.
It's going to take us to a Dark Souls boss.
Yeah. So we walk through the mist, and but yeah, we make it through the mist, and it is Astor House, where Kevin and Rufina and Reese were all orphans. And Kevin is like, I fucking knew it. Welcome home, guys. End of the chapter. The next chapter is super short, and I think it's probably going to be just the cutscene. So we'll probably do the next chapter and catch up on a bunch of doors, because I didn't prepare any of the doors to talk about this week, because this was like 9 hours of video game. It was 3 of the final dungeons taped together, and it was big. So yeah, I did not have time to do any doors. So this is a very short episode. We were expecting it to be the longest one because we saw how long the chapter was, but it was all gameplay and not a lot of talking. So instead of cutting to the doors, let's cut to our Mim Moms and talk about any cute little bits that we had for this week.
So it's amazing to me how no matter who I took with me, well, I took with me a certain group, Kevin, Reese, Required Character, and Estelle. But whenever I did the big scene at the end, they would just elegantly weave in lines from the optional characters, and it always felt like I had taken the canon group, even though I know if I'd taken Zen with me, there would have been a lot more dialogue with Kilika. It still felt perfectly natural having the party I did have.
Yeah, I felt the same way when we got to the Gilbert scene where he was locked in the thing, because Estelle at him, like she plucky heroined him to feel better, to get him to want to open the door. Like she like stole the scene, and she's the optional character there, and that's bonkers to me. And like we saw that a lot last game. But this game basically is only that because you don't have NPCs to talk to. And so they just densely wrote every possible scene, and it's legit.
Yes, I did also like playing this chapter under a deadline was not great because it's so long, but I did like this chapter. I liked having just a bunch of little character moments strung together with a ridiculous boss rush, and the bosses were really fun to fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never retried so much that I could just hold A to win against the bosses. All of my retries were to just get them down to my level, and every single one was so much fun to fight. Like, they all had interesting mechanics, since all of these were dudes that like have their own orbments and training and stuff. They all had S-crafts, and so you did not want to let any of them have a zero craft turn because they would fuck your shit up, and you had to deny them good turns, and you had to debuff them and buff yourself and interact with the game in a super cool way. And I very much liked it. Not a single one of them felt like they were just a damage sponge and you just had to burst through it. Like, they all had cool, interesting stuff to do.
They didn't feel like they were just a damage sponge. They felt like a damage sponge that also has a lot of interesting stuff going on.
Yeah. There were quite a few times where I was like, all right, let's kick some ass and take some names. Let's unload Kevin's fucking. Like, I told myself I would never use this weapon ever again, S-craft on them, and it doesn't even move their HP after doing like 10,000 damage. And I'm like, Well, shit. This is going to take a while.
Yeah.
So another thing I wish we weren't playing basically this whole game on a deadline, but especially this week, is the only NPCs in this game are your party members back at base camp, and their dialogue changes at least once a chapter. This chapter changed once a tablet, and one of the times that you go back, you can if you go to your party, Annalise, Tita, and Ren are all hanging out in the library, and they're talking about their favorite plushies, which is hilarious because Tita and Ren are 9 years old, so of course they have favorite plushies. Annalise is just a woman child who is obsessed with all of her plushies, and it was great. It made me cackle. I wish I would have been paying more attention to all of these all the way through the game, because I'm sure some of them are great.
I mean, it's a Legend of Heroes game. There's going to be tons of great stuff that you're not going to see because it's impossible to 100% something like this if you want to see everything.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, the Let's Play has an entire alternate reality version of the Glorious Dungeon, because if you take Ren, she has so much stuff about her own unique dialogue and stuff like that, and you don't have enough party members to see all of that in one go. Like, you have to leave somebody else behind to even see that, so you have to play the game twice to see it, and that's basically par for the course here.
Yeah, I'm guessing the reason that they wrote a scene with Estelle so central to it with Gilbert was because they figured you have to bring Joshua here, so probably you're going to bring Estelle.
Yeah, probably so. That one was probably the easiest one to write.
They cannot be separated.
They cannot. But, yeah, what about you, Matt? Do you have any mem-moms you want to bring up?
Unfortunately, this playthrough for me was and it's part of why I've been a little more quiet. I think I mentioned it last week, but my laptop died. For those of you listening along at home. So I wasn't using my save file. I was using a save file a buddy of mine found on the internet. Probably should have asked the buddies on this podcast, because they might have found me a better one.
Yeah. So when my Vita almost died, like last week or week before, I got some from Bernard. So you could have probably got those and done that.
Yeah, it was one of those, like, I was at work and I was mentioning it to one of my coworkers. I was like, oh yeah, I can find that for you. Like, I'll have it to you in your inbox, air quotes, whatever. I'll have it to you before you're done with work. I was like, oh cool, that's one thing resolved. So most of this chapter was just kind of clouded with frustration for me. But now that I've had some time to, like, distance myself from it and not feel the pressure to get it done, combined with, the other outside life stresses that were happening at the time, it's a really cool highlight, actually, of, like, I am sure the file, I didn't ask him if I could name him on the podcast, so I'll call him Greg for now. Or Craig. Let's go with Craig. That's funnier. I'm sure the file he got me was good for somebody, right? Because you couldn't get to this point of the game with, like, the worst team ever. But especially listening over the course of this episode, I'm realizing, it wasn't that it was bad for me, because my team was built a certain way to capitalize on the certain things that I like after not just playing these games, but Trails of Cold Steel.
Yeah.
So, like, I've developed a play style for just these games, which is cool to think about, because the only other game I can think I've done that with, and it was an active choice, is Pokemon, right? Like, I'm going to use only poison types because they're cool and I'm edgy. But over the course of 9, I'm not going to do the math. All the Trails games I've played to this point, I've subconsciously, I like to put these kind of upgrades on these characters, and like it almost felt like somebody taking you to their house and asking you to make dinner in their kitchen, giving you zero context of what's in there. So like, I don't even know where you keep your mixing bowls.
Yeah.
Which at the time was frustrating, but like, now that I'm removed from the situation, I'm like, you know what? That's really cool that the game provides you the ability to just like equip characters and give them different tools and different loadouts and different arts and such to get to a point where you are like, I don't even know how this person got to this point, just dead looking at it and trying to rush through the game, right?
Yeah, like every time Bernard is like, I brought Estelle because she's so good at arts and healing and stuff like that. And I'm like, you mean she's the heaviest damage dealer that you have, right? Because she has Attack 5 or Ruby Gem or whatever the fuck it's called at this point, and all these things. And she has Cassius's medal slapped on her and all of these things, because all of her S-crafts are single target. So I put her as a single target fuck you upper. So what do you mean that she does arts and heals and stuff? That's not Estelle. That's not her at all. But it's just because there's so much like expression you can do with this game that when I was using Bernard's save file when I was trying to catch up on the PC, that was impossible for me. Not only because the control scheme from the Vita to the PC are, even if you play with the controller, are not the same, and it breaks my brain a little. But also Bernard's loadout was just not even close to how I play the game. And that I think is the strongest part about the orbment system. It's like the sphere grid perfected. Like you can do so many things, and how they link together and all of this stuff is important, but like it actually does end up making each character very incredibly different.
Well, and it's super cool, but at the same time, like we're in a unique position to like actively notice it, right? Because we're making a podcast and we're talking about it every week.
Yeah, like this game starts with Kevin and Reese have an empty orbment, and you have, like every other game when you get somebody, they have an orbment and then you like build off of it. But here it was empty, and it basically was like these characters have no class. They have nothing to point you in either direction of how you should build them. And it was like fun and hard to decide what they would be good at and have to build out accordingly. And I like it a lot. Like I liked it a lot when it was confusing and I didn't understand it. Now that it's confusing and I do understand it, it's kind of brilliant. It's super complicated in the way that like Pokemon stats are super complicated, where they want you to not be good at it so that everything is unique to you. And playing this on the podcast and seeing Bernard's loadout and hearing you guys' loadout, and now you seeing Craig's loadout is like proof of that, where yes, anybody could buy attack and defense orbments and put them on Estelle, but the at the same time you easily could put water and shield and wind stuff on Estelle and make her a healer, and it could go either way, and it's really cool. I just really like it.
Pretty much all my guys are healers because I get hurt a lot.
Yeah, everybody has at least Athelas and Latir, if not Latira, because
what the fuck is
sucks.
Athelas?
Athelas is the Phoenix Down level 2 spell.
I don't think I've even gotten that.
You should.
I think I just have Thalos. But I bought a ton of Celestial Balms. So I use those.
Yeah, I also don't know if Athelas was added in the Evolution version, because so many things I'm finding were added here. Like, every single craft has like percent to status effect in my game, and not just the ones that specifically call it out. And that makes it super cool and super awesome and a way different experience than in your guys' game. Yeah. So another thing that I found this week, but I'm actually going to save it for the week when we do the novels, whenever that happens. Throughout the game, when I would check some chests, sometimes they would be like 1 out of 36 or like 8 out of 12 or something. Apparently, there's a whole other novel in this game that is just chest text, and you get it a tweet at a time, and there's 36 of them to put it together, which I think is hilarious. And you find them out of order and throughout the game, so you're supposed to just write them down, I guess, and put them back in order later. Thankfully, the Let's Play has already done that for me, but that's just super silly and cool.
I encountered that, and I was like, I'm not dealing with this.
Yeah, I will just send along the appropriate links to the Let's Play, etc. on the week that we do all of the reading. I'm not going to make you go back through this entire game to put the chests back in order. But yeah, I think that'll do it. We managed to still make this the longest episode, but even without doors, but not by much. Anything else anyone want to say before we start the outro?
No.
Cool. So that will do it for the week. This series is a timed exclusive for our Ko-Fi supporters. So if you're hearing this in the podcast feed, come on over to www.rpgbook.club, where there will be a few extra episodes waiting on you when you donate. We now have membership tiers. So if you donate $1 or more a month, you get all of the stuff that backers have gotten previously, so voting on our polls, access to these Book Club no Kiseki episodes early, but then we also have 2 more tiers. One is a $5 tier where we will shout out your name at the end of the episode as thanks. So shout outs to Cerebral Wind, Anthony Lerma, Vimk, Jfro Prime, Eli Bergmas, Doho, and Tuxedo Kin. We also have a extra special $20 a month Luminary tier, which we will not only read your name, but plug whatever you want us to. Our current only Luminary car is a dentist, so instead of his Twitch stream, he wants to plug your own teeth. So brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the one before bedtime. So yeah, for Book Club no Kiseki, I have been Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Houck.
I'm Matt Jorgensen.
Adios, amigos.